in northern Utah, because we're geographically constrained by mountains on one side, a lake on the other, we can only grow so much, and we're expecting a population growth of over of almost doubling, the metro area in Salt Lake. And he said there's no physical way we can double the lane miles, on our existing transportation system. We have to start thinking multimodally. We have to start thinking more innovatively on our land uses. We got to figure out what we need to do to get more use and more efficiency out of our existing system. And I started trying to bring aviation into those discussions, which they weren't thinking about at the time. They were thinking buses, trains, highways, everything
Yeah.
essentially but aviation. And so,
Yeah.
um,
Everything on the
the,
road that is already congested.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a focus on leveraging existing infrastructure, making better use out of existing infrastructure. And so we have a number of airports, scattered throughout the metropolitan area. And I was like, all right, let's not forget about those, not just as transportation nodes, but also as anchors for land uses, that might
Yeah.
complement the set in transportation nodes. And as I was doing that, I caught the attention of the aeronautics director under the Department of Transportation, and had a couple conversations with him, and he vowed to steal me from the planning division and bring me over to aeronautics. So I started going out to the different cities and regions and economic development districts and talking about their airport, talking about the airport's role in their regional economic development strategies and how we can bolster that. And again, not just the airport as a mode of transportation enabler, but as a land use anchor as well. And so what other land uses could we start looking at around the airports that's going to complement the airport in its use? And it doesn't have to be a direct aeronautical use. It can be an ancillary use that still benefits from the airport being there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
got a
mean, a
lot of
lot of
success with
airports
that.
do something like an industrial use, or not
Yeah.
industrial necessarily as in building, smoke coming out of the factory, but they are like engineering and that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is a very
Yeah.
good use case, right? For
And we had conversations down in the rural areas where it's primarily agricultural and ranch lands. And they were saying, well, part of what's limiting us from, you know, uh, making more money and having a bigger impact is the lack of refrigerated storage facilities. And it says we just don't have a place to put refrigerated storage facilities because it's all agricultural, and there's not a lot of industrial zones to build that kind of structure. And so we started having conversations around, could airports anchor refrigerated storage facilities for the agricultural and ranch producers.